Hand it over to the mayor.
Good evening, everyone. Is it on? Good evening, everyone. We're so glad to have you here tonight. Before we get started, I wanted to do a couple of formalities for the room. Over in the back corner, there's water and snacks and chips. Over here is a women's restroom, and over there is the men's restroom. And that's the exit from the building in case you have to leave. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Joyce Shanahan. I'm the city manager for City of Ormond Beach. And it's my honor and pleasure to welcome you to tonight's meeting. We are here tonight to share what we know regarding the new development. Oh, please, go ahead. Come on. Come on. Hello, how are you? Oh. Okay. Oh, we have lots of people coming in the back door. This is good. Watch this stand here. I don't want anybody to fall. Anybody else? Okay, great. So we're so glad to have a nearly full room. As I said, we're here tonight to share what we know regarding the new development west of I-95 and how it may impact our city. We are grateful to have the opportunity to listen to your feedback and find out what's important to you. At a time when we hear daily about divisiveness and discord across the country, I'm so very proud of the folks who live and work in Ormond Beach because they're always willing to come together and discuss proactively what's important to them. Collectively, we want to advocate to preserve the characteristics that make Ormond Beach a special place to live, and we can't do that without the feedback from our residents. I see many of you that are here tonight that were part of the 2018 OB Life Citizen Engagement Series. That helped shape the city's strategic plan, and that process involved more than 650 residents and spanned nearly 9 months, and demonstrated that people that live in our community care about their community and they really want to be informed and engaged about maintaining the quality of life. We also have not only the people in this room tonight, but you can attend virtually online, so we have a good online audience as well. For all these reasons, we are instituting 2 new OB Life meetings. We call them OB Life because that's our citizen engagement title for these things. So tonight is the first one, and we're going to talk about transportation, and then economics. And then the second one will be in December, and we'll give you a flyer for the date when that is. And we will talk about utilities, public safety, and leisure and quality of life issues. So you might be saying to yourself, why are we talking about Avalon Daytona when it's not in our city? What we're really here to do is to find out what's important to you so that we can listen to that feedback and provide it to the folks from Avalon Park. We have a number of folks from the executive leadership team from Avalon Park, Orlando. Thank you for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. So we're going to be transparent about what we know and, again, listen to your feedback about how we can shape the discussion moving forward. We're very grateful that Ormond Beach has been included in discussions with the City of Daytona Beach, Volusia County, and Avalon Park. So we feel like we have a seat at the table and that they're willing to listen how this might impact our community. On behalf of the City Commission and our entire city staff, we thank you for caring about your community and coming here tonight. And we hope that you'll come back in about 4 weeks so that we can move forward and talk about the other issues that are important to our community. I would like to turn it over to Mayor Bill Partington, who will have some welcome comments.
Good evening. Welcome. So glad that you all So glad you all are here.
I could have just stood in front of this one. And actually, I don't even need a mic, but we are glad that you are here on behalf of the Ormond Beach City Commission. We need your input, your voices, the strength of your presence to show our concerns. I know a lot of you that are listening online as well tonight, watching online. We appreciate you and thank you for being here as well. I'd like to introduce the commission members who are present, and I'll start with our Deputy Mayor and Zone 3 Commissioner, Susan Persis. Our Zone 1 Commissioner, Dwight Selby. And our Zone 4 Commissioner, Rob Littleton. I'm Mayor Bill Partington, and I know, this is a busy time of year. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to be here, to share your thoughts and ideas with us. I can't express how important your feedback is to us. We received it last time during the OB Life series, and we've used that in the development of our strategic plan. And we continue to rely on those results to shape all of the decisions we make on the dais every meeting. And we're grateful to have the guiding voices of our residents to follow. We hope this series will produce a similar set of feedback that will allow the city to know how to truly advocate best on your behalf, with the priorities that you all set tonight remaining top of mind. Thank you for being here and learning about the Daytona Avalon project. We have strategically waited until this time because it's the appropriate time to give you the education you need so that your voices can be heard and we can make a positive difference in this project. I want to thank Biat Khalif for being here. This is the lion's den for him. He didn't have to come, but he came, and I appreciate that. Biat, thank you. I've met with him once prior to this. I went over and I saw Avalon, Orlando. He is a kind man, a very bright man, obviously as an entrepreneur, a very successful entrepreneur, but I sensed from him a willingness to listen and to hear our concerns, and I'm hopeful that he'll work with us to make his project successful in Daytona Beach, understanding the impact he's going to have on his surrounding community. I think he wants to do that, and I think the better we can learn about the project and express our concerns, the better we can help him do that. So that's the ultimate goal of both of these series. Thank you for being here. Please tell your neighbors about this. This is all being recorded so they can go back and watch it online or listen to it, but it's important to have you involved, and so that's what this is all about. Thank you.
Well, now it's time to get started. I'm going to introduce Michelle Bono. She is our facilitator tonight. She has worked in local government. I'm sorry. I'm here to introduce Michelle Bono. She has worked in local government.
Yeah.
I would have thought we had worked that out. I apologize. I know, he's retired. Good for him. So Michelle has worked in local government for 25 years in Virginia, Colorado, and Florida. She is deeply committed to ensuring residents are involved in their community, and she has a real passion for Ormond Beach. She has assisted with the Ormond Beach Life series in 2018, so please help me welcome her, and she will give you a quick start to tonight's meeting. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I am supposed to be, am I on? There we go, yes. So I am on a lavalier because I tend to roam. So if you have any trouble hearing us, please be sure you just raise your hand or put it to your ear. You know, the universal, I can't hear you. So we want to be sure that you have the opportunity to hear. What an exciting thing to look around this room and see so many people who are so passionate about Ormond Beach. So that's super exciting. And I know we have other people joining us online. That's outstanding as well. So let me tell you a little bit about our process tonight. As Joyce mentioned, I had an opportunity to assist staff back in 2018. How many of you in the room, raise your hand if you were part of the OB Life series back in 2018. Raise them high. Thank you, thank you. I don't know if you all know, probably most of you know this, that citizen engagement was named the best in the state of Florida from any city across the state by the Florida League of Cities. So give yourselves a hand. That was outstanding, right? It's pretty nice when other governments want to be like Ormond Beach, and other cities say, well, look what they did in Ormond Beach, why can't we do it here? And the answer is, of course you can do it there, right? You just need people who care about their community. So I thought that was great. The other thing that I love about this process with the Westward focus is that we're not waiting till everything is done, right? If you sometimes wait and you're reactive, then it's like, well, what influence can we have? How can we even make our voice known? We need to know everything. And so that's what the city of Ormond Beach, through their elected officials, said, let's be sure that we're sharing everything we know with the people who live in this community. And again, it's Avalon Daytona, right? It's not in Ormond Beach. But what we know is that the impact of growth and development can impact the quality of life in our city. So we want the opportunity to hear from you, and that's the most important thing. So in terms of processes for tonight, we know there's going to be a lot of information sharing. There will be some group discussions at your table. We'll remind everyone, but what we know is that many of us may come at this from different perspectives. And tonight the goal is that we respect that and we listen to everybody's perspective, right? I don't think this is a time we're trying to convince others to think like we think. It's just a chance to say, this is what I hold true, and this is important to me. So we'll ask you all to respect the other people that you have around the table with you. If you were part of the OB Life series, you know kind of the process that we used back then. We're using the same process tonight. So what we're going to have is a number of presentations. We're going to start with those to kind of create a level playing field of understanding of information. We'll look a little bit at history. We'll look at transportation because we know that's a big impact. We all care about how many cars are on the road. And then we'll also talk about economic development because one of the things I think we tend to always think is that development can be really challenging and bring a lot of negativity. Sometimes there's also benefits. And we'll talk about, are there benefits, and whatever those may be, we'll talk about those as well. So the other quick things I want to mention, on your table, there's a bowl in the middle. Some of you may have thought, I don't know why they don't have flowers in those bowls, right? What is that in the middle of the table? We call that our fishbowl. And you have in front of you 3.5 by 5 pieces of paper. You can write any question you want on that paper throughout the entire evening. We'll, at one point, about an hour into the conversation, we'll go through and pull one just randomly from each table and have that question answered. All the ones that are not answered in that process will be answered online. And so every question you put down will have a response to it. It will be posted by November 30th with a response, right? So whatever question you put down, we take that seriously, we respond to those. So those are the fishbowl questions. The other thing we find is that process from 2018 worked really well at hearing everybody's voice, right? It's not just the loudest person at the table. You may be a quiet person, your question's just as valuable to us. So anytime, put those questions in and we'll poll those. The other thing that we're going to be doing is having some polling questions. So some of you may remember this also from the OB Life. You have in front of you these little blue clickers. They look like this. They tell me they're anonymous. The questions you're going to see are really not terribly probing, but we're going to try a couple of them just to get everybody comfortable with that. And I do not have the clicker, so whoever has the clicker, I do have the clicker. There we go. All right, thank you. Okay, so we're going to start with some polling questions. You're going to like these first ones, I hope, just to get you comfortable with this. All right? So the first question is, what is your favorite Thanksgiving food? It's that time of year, right? Are you the turkey? Are you stuffing? Are you cranberry? Are you pumpkin pie? All you have to do is just hit the number, right? And you can only enter one answer. So if you are really loving that one thing, if you hit the wrong answer, maybe you hit stuffing, but you really meant pumpkin pie, whatever's the last number you put in, that's what it's going to record. So if you pushed one incorrectly, you can push it again. All right, so we have people that responded. Anybody else want to put their answer in on the polling? All right, let's see. Anybody want to guess what's going to be number one? Pumpkin pie, let's see. All right, it was turkey. All right, those of you who like the turkey. And I would say next, man, the stuffing and the pumpkin pie were pretty darn close, and I may have been one of the few who would have picked cranberries, right? I love those cranberries. Okay, most of you all know. Okay, so you get the idea. Now we want to ask you a few questions to get a little sense about who is here this evening, all right? The next one is, tell us where you reside. Number one is within the Ormond Beach beachside within the city limits. 2 is Ormond Beach mainland east of I-95. Next is the Ormond Beach mainland west of I-95. And number 4 is outside of the city limits of Ormond Beach. All right? Say again? You don't even have to hit send. You just hit the number and it reflects up there. Thank you. Great question. I was doing that earlier, hitting the send, and you don't have to do that. All right, we got a few more answers up here about where people live. All right, let's see what the response was. All right, the most number of people live in Ormond Beach mainland west of I-95. All right, the second was Ormond Beach mainland east of I-95. And then, what is that, maybe about 20% live outside the city. And then we have less than 1% that live in Ormond Beach beachside within the city limits. Okay, good, thank you. Gives us an idea of who's in the room tonight. All right, a couple more questions for you. How long have you had your connection to Ormond Beach? Now we say connection because maybe you own a business in Ormond Beach, right? It doesn't have to just be that you live there. How long have you been had your connection to Ormond Beach? 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, 16 to 20, or more than 20 years. I bet there's somebody here who's like a second or third generation resident of Ormond Beach, yes. All right, let's see how that reflects. Wow, okay. That's amazing, guys. Look at that. 65% of the people here have been here more than 20 years. That's impressive, okay? And the next ones are all pretty much equal across the board. All right, and last question. Helps us understand the demographics. Some of us go, I'm not sure I want to tell you how old I am. It's anonymous, right? The only person knowing is if your neighbor sees you punch a button. So cover your button if you want to. Tell us how old you are. A few more still coming in. All right. Yeah, let's see how many people we have here under 20. We need to get the young people involved, right? All right. All right, the biggest group is 65 to 75. Kudos to those of you over the age of 75. We really appreciate that. The second largest group represented would be with 5. That's 55 to 64. And then, yeah, we need to do a little better job of getting younger people engaged, right? We know that. Yeah, and maybe we always argue, maybe they're the ones watching online. Yeah, positive thinking, right? Okay, hopefully so. All right. So to start us off, we're going to do a little bit of a historical overview. I think this, to me, this is a super important part for some of you all who have lived here for more than 20 years. You're going to say, I remember these changes, right? So Stephen Spraker is going to do that for us. To tell you a little bit about Stephen, he is a professional planner with the City of Ormond Beach. He has spent 19 years providing guidance and support to residents, businesses, design professionals, and developers. And his job is that he works to manage existing and future redevelopment, okay? He also works to encourage investment and economic growth. He started as an intern for the city, and then he became the planning director in 2018. His background is he has a degree in economics from Florida State University. I'm from Tallahassee. I got to give the Seminoles a little shout out, right? I know I could be in dangerous territory here. We got a lot of Gator fans here. All right. He also got his master's degree in public administration from the University of Central Florida. And I love the fact he said when he's not working, he spends a lot of time with his wife and 3 children who attend the University of Florida, so they didn't follow in his footsteps, and also local schools here in the area. So I do want to mention, again, don't forget about the fishbowl. So as Stephen is talking, if you go, oh, I really need to know this, or I had a question about that, please write it, put it in the fishbowl. The other thing is, I know we've got some more folks coming in. Please come in and help yourselves. We've got a few more seats over here, and if we need to bring in any extra chairs, we'll be happy to do that as well. All right, Stephen. There we go. I got it.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. So the areas that are shown in light gray on the map are still in unincorporated Volusia County. The area in this map shown in green are in the city of Daytona Beach. A good reference is this FPL easement. It'll be a common landmark that'll be on multiple slides. The gray area is Flagler County, and the rest of the area are the lands that are within the city of Ormond Beach. So my presentation has 4 components. The first is the existing residential development within Ormond Beach. And then we're going to discuss the commercial development within the city. And then the vacant land left within Ormond Beach. And then we're going to discuss the land south of Granada Boulevard in the city of Daytona Beach. So starting with the residential development, I want to acknowledge that there are some properties such as Timber Creek, Twin Rivers, Riverbend Acres, and Waterford subdivisions that were developed in the county, and they were pre this era. Some of them are annexed and some of them not. So my presentation is going to focus on the city of Ormond Beach. In 1981, there was a utility service boundary west of I-95 that established which jurisdiction was going to serve that area, and it allowed each city to do capital plans to serve that future development. You can see in this 1984 area, here's our FP&L easement. There's not a whole lot of development. There are some properties in unincorporated Volusia County, and this is the future Breakaway Trails entrance. So not a whole lot of development in 1984. In 1988, the city did a land use plan map. What they did is they realized there was a lot of development coming in the western Ormond area. So they created a holding capacity analysis that used site-specific calculations in order to reduce the density out west, less than what was in the core area of the city. They also encouraged certain environmental conditions through the wetlands. So they had higher standards and specific standards for this West Ormond area. So starting in the 1980s, the areas of Breakaway Trails and Moss Point were developed. Breakaway Trails was a large project of about 984 units. It started in 1986 and went all the way through 2003 through development. So that was a long time for those approximately 1,000 units. In the 1990s, there were 6 subdivisions that were done. Hunter's Ridge started in 1991. It's north of Granada Boulevard, and it's also along Airport Road. So it went from 1991 all the way through 2016. So there was a long period of build-out for that subdivision. Other subdivisions include Southern Trace, which is in the south of Granada Boulevard, included Sadler's Run, which is along Timber Creek, located here, Indian Springs, which was a 20-unit subdivision between Breakaway Trails and Granada, and then Timber Crossings and Southern Pines. All these subdivisions had density around 2 units per acre. So they followed that land use plan in turn trying to reduce the residential density in that area. In the 2000s, there was one subdivision that was done, Tuscany-Illville. It was a 53-lot subdivision, and that was the last residential subdivision done in the city of Ormond Beach west of I-95. Switching to commercial development, what we're going to do is just go through what we've seen develop in the last few decades. Starting in the 60s and 70s, there were 2 developments, a small gas station around the interchange, and then an office building. So not a whole lot of development in the 70s. The 80s started to see some development, again, another gas station, and a series of 3 churches were developed: Faith Lutheran Church, Calvary Christian Church, and Coquina Presbyterian Church. So those churches were developed in the 80s, and then they did expansions in the 2000s. In the 1990s, there started to be more development in West Ormond. Started with Halifax Hospital and their expansion, another church in Oasis, and then a couple of gas stations, the Texaco by the interchange, and the 7-Eleven at Timber Creek and Granada. Around the mid-1990s, the Interchange Boulevard complex was approved, and what that did was provide lots around Interchange next to I-95 for development. The first development in that core area was Brookdale, which is an assisted living facility. Riverbend was constructed in 1997, and then we started seeing the development in the Interchange area with the Hampton Inn and the Cracker Barrel. So the development was following the interstate uses. In the 2000s, the development kept coming along Interchange Boulevard. There was Baymont, the McDonald's, there was some retail, an office building along Interchange Boulevard, another office building along Granada Boulevard, and then we started to see some retail around Timber Creek Shops and Walgreens. So that retail was trying to fill the demand that the residential area was needing. Finally, in 2007, Tomoka Landings was constructed, which was a office complex. In the 2010s, Racetrack was the sole commercial use out at Interchange and Granada Boulevard. And then recently, we've had the Extended Stay America, a hotel, approved. And then Interchange Depot is a self-storage indoor facility that's going through the process now. So you can really see that the commercial focused around the Interchange and then some around Timber Creek and Granada Boulevard. The third part of the presentation focuses on the vacant land remaining in Ormond Beach. So this map shows the major parcels that are vacant. Starting at Timber Creek and Granada Boulevard, there's a 30-acre parcel. It is zoned commercial. It previously had an apartment proposed there, a 300-unit apartment. That application has expired. So there is no current development right now for that 30-acre tract of land. Moving up Timber Creek Road, at Timber Creek and Airport Road, the Tattersall subdivision is in process. It proposes 143 units. The gross density is 1.69 units per acre. So it's still within that 2-unit per acre threshold. And then there's an additional land area here that could eventually be a subdivision, probably about 30 units at most. Switching to Granada Boulevard, west of Breakaway Trails, there are 2 parcels that have residential zoning. There are no current applications, so those could potentially be future sites. And then there are some other scattered. This area is Durrance Acres, so those are 5-acre tracts of land. So they could develop into 5-acre parcels, but not really a residential subdivision. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I could move. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So the last area is the land south of Granada Boulevard. So in 1999, there was a request from Consolidated Tomoka Land Company. And the request was for a voluntary annexation, provided that there was an annexation agreement acceptable to both Ormond Beach and to Consolidated Tomoka. So during the process, there was a series of 3 issues that came up. The first was the density, so the number of houses on the land area, that would be the density. The second would be the continuation of agricultural uses, and the third would be the use of the St. Johns River Waters Management District wetland standards. So basically, they were seeking to use wetland standards that were different than that land use plan that was done in 1988. The annexation application did not move forward based on the issues with the allowable density and the use of the wetland standards. So basically, they withdrew the application to annex into the city of Ormond Beach. The land area then annexed into the city of Daytona Beach in 2002. Basically, they went from Ormond Beach to Daytona Beach. There's 2 terms I want to go over before I go to my next slides. One is a comprehensive plan. That includes a land use map. That's a general plan that basically contains the vision of a city. It'll include the density, the number of units are allowed on land. It includes the intensity, how much building can I put on a parcel. And it also contains policies that guide how land is to be developed. So that's more a broad perspective. The zoning is an actual development approval. It's site plans. It has specific numbers about the number of units allowed, the number of square footage. It includes traffic studies, and it also includes detailed site plans, such as a utility plan, drainage plan, or how a subdivision is going to be constructed. So there are two very different aspects that are important. So in 2010, the city of Daytona Beach took that land area, basically south of Granada, and they went from unincorporated Volusia County, which is this map here, into the city of Daytona Beach. So the land in unincorporated Volusia County had a certain level of entitlements. They were allowed a certain number of residential units and a certain number of commercial units. The land use amendment didn't increase the residential or non-residential uses allowed. It transferred it from one jurisdiction to the other. So there are some base entitlements allowed through both residential and commercial uses. The land area was broken into three areas. Area A is south of Booth Road. It's 152 acres. Area B is approximately 1,742 acres. This is directly across from breakaway trails. So this is the land in Area B. And Area C is just over 2,400 acres. It stretches from Granada Boulevard all the way down to LPGA. So that was the land area of that 2010 land use amendment. This slide tries to get in deep detail of what's allowed under those comprehensive plan entitlements. So the Area A under the comprehensive plan of the city of Daytona Beach allows just over 3,000 residential units. It also allows over 446,000 square feet of commercial. So this area, again, is just south of Booth Road. In order to develop it, they still have to do zoning actions. So they still have to do all the detailed amendments. But those are the land use entitlements. The second area is Area B. It's shown in this blue color on this map. Area B is divided into two areas. The first is this area here, which is approximately 1,287 acres. And it was also included another 327 acres that wasn't a part of the 2010 amendments. So in 2018, there was a development called the Minto Parcel A. And I'm sorry about the area and parcels, they're all confusing. But this is a development order that was done through a zoning action that allowed 3,250 residential units in 2018. It also allowed 200,000 square feet of commercial uses. So the Avalon Daytona application is using the development entitlements that were granted in this application, and they are using it to develop detailed site plans. This is the land area of the Avalon Daytona action, which is going forward today. So that has both comprehensive plan and zoning entitlements. They need to do certain actions such as site plans and finish traffic studies, and then they would be allowed to start construction. The remainder of Area B is located right here. So this is the remainder of Area B. It is 455 acres. Area C is broken into two areas now. The first is 535 acres, and that's an area that has been sought for development in other applications. The other portion of Area C has been preserved as a conservation and a mitigation bank, and that totals 1,888 acres. So this area would not be developed, but this area has been part of other land use applications, which we'll get to in just one second. So the portion of Area B that includes the Minto Parcel A, what was previously approved in 2018 and that's being picked up by the Avalon Daytona application. This is the preliminary plat, so it's the start of the site plan that details the construction activities. It includes 1,609 residential units and 90,000 square feet of commercial. So that's roughly half of what the entire entitlement is of the 3,250 houses and the 200,000 square feet of commercial. Orienting ourselves on the map, at the very top is breakaway trails. This would be the traffic light here. Granada Boulevard would be located here. They're proposing a spine road, which is called Avalon Park Boulevard, which would bisect the property. This is our FP&L easement that we've been looking at. So most of it is south of that FP&L easement. And then this would be Timber Creek that would connect to LPGA. And this would be Timber Creek that would connect to Granada. My understanding is there are some right-of-way issues that will prevent the immediate connection of the Timber Creek Road to State Road 40. So this is a zoning site plan that allows the construction of both commercial and residential lands. So this is a zoning map from the Avalon Daytona preliminary plat. Note the red colors. So the red colors indicates that there is some type of zoning approval. There's a plan development. And what that plan development does is it gives the allowable units, the allowable density, the setbacks, it gives the details of the development. So again, that area, portion B, the former Minto parcel A, is an approved development. The other areas, area A and the portion of area B and C, don't have that same color. So they maintain the Volusia County zoning. So they need additional zoning action at a minimum for any type of site development. In 2019, there was a development application for a portion of area B and a portion of area C. Remember, this is the land area that had the approval. So there was a land use application to increase the residential and the commercial entitlements. This application was by a property owner and was withdrawn. In 2020, there was both comprehensive plan and zoning amendments seeking 10,000 residential units and 1 million square feet of commercial uses. It incorporates the entire area B and a portion of area C. So the total land area is 2,604 acres. This application, to the best of staff's knowledge, is not active and it is expired. The takeaways from my presentation, and again, these presentations will be on our website. In Ormond Beach, the residential growth has occurred primarily north of Granada, around 2 units per acre, per that 1988 land use plan. In Ormond Beach, the non-residential growth has occurred in the 1990s and 2000s, generally around Interchange Boulevard, and then some retail along Timber Creek. There are areas of vacant land that are left along Timber Creek Road, as we showed, and then some along Granada Boulevard, generally west of the Breakaway Trails entrance. The lands south of Granada Boulevard are within the city of Daytona Beach. They had comprehensive plan entitlements for both residential and commercial uses in Volusia County that transferred to the city of Daytona Beach. The Avalon Daytona, the former Minto parcel A, that's area B, if we're looking at the maps again, is fully authorized for development within the city of Daytona Beach. They still need to do certain actions. They still need to give final construction plans, finish their traffic studies, and do all of those actions. The other areas, area A, portions of B and C, need additional action. That may be a zoning amendment, or it could be a zoning and a comprehensive plan amendment. So those are needed for any future development in the city of Daytona Beach. And I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Sorry, get past that speaker. Okay, so do you all feel like junior planners at this point, right? That was so much information, and I appreciate him making it so concise. But if you were like me, my head spins a little bit with all that. That's why it's on the website, right? ormondbeach.org/OBLife, and it will take you to this presentation. For those of you who like to look on social media, it'll be on the Facebook page as well. So please use those resources. For me, I want to go back and really look, right, and see, okay, now let me look into that map and see where that is and where am I. And so I think that's helpful to at least know that you can go back and have access to those. If the things that Stephen talked about prompts a question, please, now is the time. Put some of your questions into that fishbowl. I see we already have several in this bowl over here. So if something you just went, okay, I need you to explain that better, please put that in there, because we know we gave you a lot of information very quickly. So again, sometimes the question is, okay, this is Daytona Beach, right? So why are we talking about it? Just to remind you, because something that happens near our city is going to be something we know impacts us. And as Joyce mentioned earlier, we have a seat at the table to talk to the developer and Volusia County and to Daytona Beach. We want to know, when we're doing that, how do we make sure we're representing what people in Ormond Beach really want, right? What's important to you? So that's the reason why we're doing this. I just think it's helpful to remember that, because these things, as Stephen talked about, some of them are at a point where they're at approval point, right, or they've already gotten past that. Others have yet to come. So we know that's kind of the position that we're in. So the next person that's going to speak is Sean Finley. When we talk about livable community, what we know is that how we plan for things and how we zone them, that impacts it. But the other thing, I think, if you ever ask people what you care a lot about, you know, we care about quality of life, but we care about transportation, right? How many people are going to be on the roads? And for most of us, it's like, how long will it take me to get from here to there, right? We all like that. It's important. It's an important part of the quality of life that we have in Ormond Beach. So to tell you a little bit about Sean, he's the city's Public Works Director. He's a licensed professional engineer, and he's been with the city since 2009. He was promoted to city engineer in 2018, and then in 2019, he moved into the role of Public Works Director. That allowed him to combine his knowledge of engineering and utilities in order to serve the residents of Ormond Beach. He has a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Science from the University of Florida, and he has over 25 years of experience working in Florida in both the public and private sectors. So let's hear what Sean has to say, and then we're going to do another one of those polling questions after we hear his presentation. All right, Sean.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm going to start out with this slide that I think, if you came to our series a couple years ago, looks kind of familiar to you. We used these daisies back then, and it's a good one to start off with tonight. I think it's safe to say that the reason why you all are here tonight and the reason why you live in Ormond Beach is because of the livability of this city. And that's what we want to focus on, is what are those things that makes our community, makes any community livable. So tonight we're going to talk about transportation, and we're also going to talk about economic development. In the next meeting that we're having, December 2nd, we're going to talk about the environment, which includes utilities. We're going to talk about leisure and culture. We're also going to talk about safety and preparedness. And so those are the topics that we're going to address, and this is kind of takes it from what Stephen talked about, the history, and now we're talking about the present and the future with this, with development, not just with the Avalon Daytona, but also all development out west. So here's some numbers for you, just to kind of give you perspective of what transportation in the city of Ormond Beach consists of. We've got 138 miles of sidewalk. We've got 30 signalized intersections. We have 183 VOTRAM bus stops served by 6 different routes. We've got 118 school bus stops, 10 railroad crossings, 2 interstate interchanges, 28 miles of bike lanes, and 9 miles of multi-use trails. We also have 266 miles of roadway. 52 of those are private. Those are behind gates. 18 of them are maintained by the Florida Department of Transportation. 17 of them are maintained by Volusia County. And the big share of those are maintained by us, the city of Ormond Beach. And so put this up here to just kind of give you perspective. A community is not just one entity. There's many entities that go into making it, maintaining it, keeping it well, and the responsibilities and decisions that are made for a community, and specifically transportation. So the DOT mile roadways, these are our arterial roads. Those ones that are really the ones that I think everybody in this room is going to think about. Granada Boulevard, US 1, Nova Road, A1A, and then we've got I-95 that bisects town. Volusia County, they maintain Hand Avenue, Timber Creek Road, Beach Street, Airport Road, Clyde Morris, Williamson Boulevard. Those other major roads that get us from point to point from long distances and carry a lot of cars. These are the ones that we do. We take the collectors, we're the Division Avenue, the Wilmette, Halifax, John Anderson, Neptune, and then those neighborhood streets that we all live on, that last mile, those last couple feet to get you to your driveway, to get you home at night. When we talk about what we want to do to improve transportation, the big movement that's out there right now, and DOT's really led the way with this one, is what's called complete streets. And it's a different way of thinking than what they used to do. It used to be that you wanted to get a car from this point to that point as fast as you could, and you really didn't consider all the other elements that go into roadways. But there's 3 things that we talk about with complete streets. Safety. That's the #1 priority, and that's one of the things that we're focusing on in the projects that we do. Is, that's the top priority for complete streets, and that's the top priority that we look at when we plan, the DOT looks at when they plan. Other communities are looking at these things from a safety perspective. How do we get the car drivers safely there? How do we incorporate bike riders, bus riders, walkers? Those people, we want to make sure that these are roadways that everybody uses and has a lot of different uses. People are using roads a lot differently than they have, and they're going to continue to use them differently. We want to, back to the quality of life, we want to make sure that we approach it from a way to make sure that we maintain and improve upon our quality of life. We want to, one of the statements that is made a lot of times with this is the right road for the right place. We want to make decisions that make quality places where transportation support a community's quality of life. And then the last, is economic development. We want to make sure that we connect those things that need to be connected. We want to connect where you start out to where you're going, get you there safely, and make sure that you can get there in an efficient manner. This is a long road. It's a long road to do a project. You don't just decide on Friday that you're going to do a project next week. DOT is a good example of the process that DOT has to do a roadway improvement process, is a good example of how a roadway goes from start to beginning. You start off with an idea. You identify the project that needs to be done. You say there's a lot of calls that are coming in about this road. What are we going to do? What are some of the options we have for that? What's going to be our project? The next step is you scope it. How far does that project need to be done? Does it need to be go all the way from I-95 west, or can it go just from Timber Creek west? Once you finally get your project scope, then you got to study. And this is a multi-year process. And part of doing your study, part of doing what they call a PD, a preliminary development and engineering study, is getting the budget, doing the funding for that project. That's a multi-year process in itself. Then, if you need more right-of-way, if you need more land to be able to do that roadway, you've got to go through that process. Again, budgeting and funding are some of the stumbling blocks with that, and some of the hurdles that you have to go through to get that project to occur. Finally, you get to design. Again, budgeting and funding are some of the parts that really kind of keep that from starting and determine when you get started with that project. After that, then you can put it out to bid. What's part of that? Budgeting and funding. Finally, you get to the end of the road and you can do construction. So it's a long way to get from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, but the process is there for a specific reason, to make sure that you dot those I's, cross those T's, that when you get to the end, when you get to construction, you're putting the right project that serves your community, does what you need to do, and helps enhance that community. When we met a couple years ago in 2018, we talked about some of these ideas. We talked about some of the projects that were coming along, and I want to kind of give you a couple minutes here just to touch base and update you on some of those projects that we talked about that time. The first project is our A1A pedestrian safety. That was one of the things that we've heard of more than anything else from some of our residents, the importance of having a safe A1A. How do you get people from the west side to the east side and back again? We're working with DOT right now to do a series of projects that does mid-block crossings along that segment of A1A from Granada Boulevard south to the South City limits. They're going to put in 7 of those crosswalks with the active buttons to help get people across the street. This is a good example of how DOT and how we have evolved. A couple years ago, we proposed this, and we were told that we'll never see some of these projects. We're looking at it from a different perspective. They came to us with the design. We had some public meetings. We got input from the community, and now we're taking that input from the community, and the project is changing, but it's still progressing. And I think that's a very positive step in both how DOT is willing to work with us and the community is willing to work with these projects. Second project is a new one that just got brought to us, and that's the State Road 40 safety improvements. 2012, 2013, some improvements were made on Granada Boulevard, US 1 to A1A. Those changed a little bit of the complexion of Granada Boulevard, but it was kind of laid the footwork for some of these things that we're doing now. They're looking at that. It's due for resurfacing. It's a very actively traveled roadway, so they're looking at some resurfacing, but in that they're also looking at doing some safety improvements. Started out just on the west side of the bridge. They've expanded it to do the east side of the bridge. We're going to get some more of those crosswalks like you have in front of the Grind and the Ormond Garage on the east side of the bridge to help get people across the street. We're seeing that we've got more people that are walking and want to walk, so we're trying to facilitate that, and DOT is really leading the way with us in doing that. Third project is Nova Road enhancements. Nova Road's kind of a blank canvas for us. It was widened in early 2000s, right around 2001, 2002. It needs a little bit of help. It needs a different character. It needs some ability to help get people more actively across the street there. So we're looking at that with them and working with DOT to help that one along. Fourth one, this is a big one, I-95 US 1 interchange. If you've heard me speak before about this interchange, you've heard me say that this is one of those interchanges that was put in when the interstate system was put in the 1960s. Dwight Eisenhower probably had this interchange on his desk. It looks the same. If you were here in the 60s and 70s, 80s, this interchange looks like it did for you back then. It's time for a change. It's time to make some of those improvements to bring it to the 21st century, to bring it to the year 2020 and beyond. We've made some great progress with that. We've got a design a study contract for the study has been awarded to a consultant, and they've recently awarded, DOT has recently allocated funds to do right-of-way acquisition. So those are some of those steps getting us along that process that we talked about to get us to where we need to be to make some of those improvements at I-95 and US 1. Before I go to that one, there's a theme with these projects. They're about safety, and that's really, again, I can't overemphasize how important safety is when we're doing roadway projects. Number 5 is a project that's being done by Volusia County. Volusia County is working right now on the widening of Williamson Boulevard. You may be out there and you see the development working to widen it from LPGA to Strickland Range Road. Volusia County is now in the process of preparing plans to complete that widening up from where it necks down to Hand Avenue to get it fully 4-lane from Hand Avenue down to Strickland Range Road. We're very appreciative that Volusia County is working on that project for us. Project that we do, or a project that went in recently, the past years, is adaptive signalization project. We talked about this a couple years ago. All those signals from A1A out to Timber Creek are now synced with one another. I can go into a lot of detail on that project, and if you'd like to ask me some questions about it, I'm more than happy to share what I know about it. We've seen some improvements on it. I think that it's had some improvements, and I hear chuckles. I know that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but it's taking some fine tuning. We've been monitoring it. We've noticed some difference in changes. Big thing that adaptive signalization wants to do, it wants to enhance your green time, but also the flip side of that, it wants to reduce your red light time. And so I think that it's doing some of that. And once you get on that main line, I think if you really pay attention, you'll see that it's a little bit quicker on Granada Boulevard than it had been in the past. Last thing we want to talk about is we get involved with consultants. That's one of the things that we've done here is with our consultant HDR. We've got other consultants who we work with as well, who help us to plan for the future, who help us to take a look at projects like Avalon Daytona when it comes to town, help work with us to be able to be prepared for what we're experiencing today, what we're going to see tomorrow. And that's really, those are some of the big parts that we play in transportation here in locally. So, and that's all that I got. Whoops. Sorry.
Again, a lot of information thrown at you very quickly. We want to get a little feedback from you all in terms of how often are you driving, and would you click to the next one for me too? Yep, thank you. How often are you driving in the area west of I-95? For those of you who have just joined us or recently joined us, everyone has a clicker on their table. And what I want you to do is see this question. How often do you drive in the area west of I-95? You can pick never, or less than once a week, weekly, but less than once per day, 1 to 2 times, 3 to 6 times. For those of you who are driving kids or grandkids everywhere, you might be in the 7 or more times per day, okay? Let us know, how often are you driving in that area? On your clicker, you just touch the number, and then you don't have to hit send. It automatically sends. So you can just touch the number on your clicker. Let's see how many times people are driving. Anybody care to venture? What do you think is going to be the number one answer? 3 to 4? All right. We got 50 in there. All right, I think we're holding there. All right, let's see. Oh, wow. Okay, pretty evenly. Actually, the 7 or more times is the least. But look at these others. They are very consistent. I would say weekly, but less than once per day is probably the top. Really close to that is 1 or 2 times a day. really close to that is 3 to 6 times per day, which is a pretty significant difference. So, and what we know is these are the people who live here now, right? So when we think about more traffic in the future, we know that there's going to be more cars in that area, right? Just a clear thing that we know. So one of the things I also appreciate about Ormond Beach was the focus of saying, let's make sure that we're looking at this from the best perspective. And so this is our last presentation before we jump into questions, right? And then we're going to have you guys do some table discussions. The reason we thought this was important is we want you to have as much information and knowledge as you can before we start discussing, because we all have our own concerns and perceptions, but I think it's really helpful to get some of the data so we know kind of, okay, what do we know? And what the city said was we want residents to know as much as we know about this process. So our next person that you're going to hear from is Matt Weisenhour, and Matt is going to talk, Weisenfield, I'll say it right. Matt is with a firm called HDR. They're a Central Florida engineering and transportation firm, and they have a history of taking on a very holistic view of things, right? Not just focusing in on creating straight this or that. They create beautiful buildings and attractive roadways, and they do a lot of research and engineering. We're thrilled to have their objective look at this, because that was part of the goal, was let's get some objective research to look at this issue of transportation. Now, Matt himself, it's Matt Weisenfeld, he's a transportation engineer and a planner with HDR, and he spent the last decade working in and with Central Florida cities to improve transportation options. He received his Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Georgia Institute of Technology, Georgia Tech, and a Master of Science in Civil Engineering from Purdue. He's a licensed professional engineer. He's a certified planner with the American Planning Association. And early in his career, he has a lot of experience here in Florida. He supported the Florida Department of Transportation's project development and environmental study, that PD&E we talked about, on State Road 40. And so he understands the transportation challenges facing Florida's beachfront, including us here in Ormond Beach. He has a passion for helping communities improve transportation systems because he believes that in turn improves economic competitiveness, health through active transportation, vibrancy, and quality of life. So Matt, let me turn it over to you to talk a little bit about your transportation work for the city of Ormond Beach.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to come out here and speak with you tonight. Adding and continuing with the presentations tonight and the focus on the Westward development, I'll be talking a lot about the traffic study that accompanies this. And something that I want to make sure that we talk about the entire time is that we've taken really two different looks at this traffic study. And one is really in the near term, and that's the current development order, the actions that are taking place right now. That was the 3,000 plus units and the 200,000 square feet of commercial. Then we also are going to talk about the long-term development potential, and that's really referencing back to that April 2020 application and some of the analysis that we've done in parallel with that, just to make sure we understand from a city perspective what that could mean. So those are some of the things we'll talk about tonight. Right over my head, see, first one with the pointer here. This image, when you see that image, we're really talking about the near term. That's kind of a conceptual plan, a layout for that space that's been applied for right now. Down here, that goes back to that 2020. So I'll use those images kind of to help reference which one I'm speaking about. So for the current development, they've gone through and had discussions with the City of Ormond Beach, City of Daytona, Volusia County, and they're working toward getting into a traffic study. That first step, though, is a traffic methodology, where there's a number of agreements that have been made about how the traffic will be studied coming out of this exit. Now, one thing to consider here is that current development does not include all the parcels owned by Avalon Park, and so it's really focused on just the one that Stephen helped explain. So some of the numbers for this development, this was applied for back in March. We talked about Phase A, 1A rather, and that was that site plan as we talked about zoning earlier. You can see that it represents about half of the development, and the forecast right now is to try to build that out in the 2025 timeframe. So when we study it from a traffic perspective, we're going to look at what would be the background growth. How would the city of Ormond Beach and the region change over that first 5-year period? And then phase 1B represents that full entitlement from the comprehensive plan and filling out the area as shown here. Again, it doesn't include all the properties. It's often referenced as the Minto Parcel A, just to give another frame of reference for that land area. Now, some of the site plan updates, and again, I'm looking here at the current, is some of the extensions. And you can see a few elements of this plan that I wanted to call out. One is this spine road, this curving spine road. That is kind of the core of the development, and it would connect an extension of Timber Creek Road up to State Road 40 at the Breakaway Trail signalized intersection. So those are kind of the two main endpoints, showing that a little over half would enter and exit down to LPGA, and a little under half would be up to State Road 40 based on the current layout and what's been presented today. On the far side of this, there's two circles around those two arrows. I wanted to make sure we called attention to those for background information here, that Timber Creek Road does exist up at State Road 40, but there is a small section that is not owned, so it would be disconnected in that section. So there's the Timber Creek Road up at State Road 40, and then there would be the one down at Avalon and down to LPGA. So those would be two distinct roadways until they're connected. The other one is Hand Avenue. That arrow would represent the potential of a connection to the Hand Avenue that many of y'all know east of I-95 connecting into Williamson. So covered most of that. Make sure that everybody realizes it's about half and half with today's percentages. So what does that mean? Well, they've got the approved development. We're talking about totals that everybody's agreed upon, but it doesn't mean that the study has occurred yet. At the study level, you'll go from the development totals and some of the assumptions about the network and which way vehicles will travel into looking at what are the actual impacts on each roadway. And we usually refer to impacts as something where the traffic volumes exceed what has been planned for, often referred to as the capacity. So that will occur, and then there'll also be a little bit of discussion about intersections and how might those be addressed to allow for safe ingress and egress off of a road like State Road 40, but also the intersections that would be affected further down the roads, such as State Road 40 and I-95, and numerous others within the region. So that's where we're at right now. That's kind of a quick highlights of some of the things that sit before us, the methodology that's been accepted, the study that's anticipated. I also wanted to talk a little bit about comparing it with the long term, going back to the 2020 and what has been discussed and thought about for that area, just to give context to maybe information you've received previously. So this is that larger version of the development. This is the million square feet between office and retail and other uses, as well as the 10,000 dwelling units. Generally speaking, the purple represents those more commercial style uses. The yellow would represent the residential style units. But you can see this curving red roadway we've highlighted through the middle of it. It's essentially the same road. It's a little bit different. I mean, these are conceptual, but that same idea and that same connection down to LPGA coming off the screen and then up at Breakaway Trail. So in comparison to some of the trip generation versus today versus the future, and we tend to look in trip generation in two different formats. We look at it from a daily basis, but when we look at the capacity of a roadway, we're often talking about the PM peak hour. That's the point at which everybody experiences the pain of congestion. So that would look at about either 3,400 or up closer to 12,000. So there's a pretty significant difference between those two developments. Then two other ways that are looked at, and they're backed into that methodology I was referring to, are pass-by and internal capture. Pass-by refers to those trips that are already out there. For an example, on State Road 40, if you were driving along and you stopped for gas on their way to another trip, that would be a pass-by. You didn't go to the gas station because that was the destination. It just happened to be on State Road 40. Another kind of reduction is internal capture. That's the assumption that if you put two types of land uses together that do interact, homes next to a grocery store or apartments next to a restaurant, those kind of things that would attract each other, that some of those strips will stay within the development. And a lot of that is based on how closely they are together, and then that quality of design, those livability characteristics of whether it's a convenient trip to go to that other use. And so we've made some reductions there and given some numbers about what we would have as we call new external trips, trips that weren't there before that would need to use the roadways surrounding the new development. And so this is a quick snapshot of it. Those numbers would get backed into different formulas. They would be applied to the entire roadway network. They would be used to develop intersection analysis to see if turn lanes were deficient, if there was a need for reconstructing an intersection or maybe signalizing an intersection. But at their first level, it would be to see if the volumes anticipated on the roadways in the future would be greater than that capacity or that belief that that's how many vehicles should be on the roadway. And the red highlighted ones represent segments of a number of regional roads that would need to be addressed if the 2045, the larger development, moved forward. So in terms of what we can do now, it's that discussion about building coalition, building that discussion with the city of Daytona Beach, with Volusia County, with other stakeholders, and to work with River to Sea TPO on programming some of these, as well as FDOT, as FDOT owns and maintains the State Road 40, I-95 interchange, some of those valuable assets that would be impacted by the development. So that's what I had for y'all tonight. Hopefully that provided a lot of highlights, and let you have some understanding of the development. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
So we prepared a little video. It's about 3 minutes in length, and it's intended to provide some of the information that I presented tonight, but a snapshot of kind of where Ormond Beach sees itself and how this development may impact it, to give you a feel for where this could be headed.
Our community's natural beauty and small beachside neighborhoods are what make Florida so unique. Ormond Beach has maintained the charm and appeal that have been lost in many small towns recently. Nestled along the Atlantic Ocean, our community's beautiful beaches, the scenic Halifax River, and our year-round cool breeze and sunny skies make Ormond Beach a perfect place to call home. We pride ourselves on being a community that knows their neighbors and always reach out a hand when someone is in need. Our interstate and highway system, along with the Florida East Coast Railroad, provide for economic viability and support our area's dedication to tourism. For years, we have grown intentionally and handled expansion and development with a thoughtful and planned approach. Smart growth is a priority for our residents, and it's what we always hope to maintain. As the state's population continues to grow, large-scale developments are changing the face and character of the communities they impact. Ormond Beach could be next. Avalon Park is currently proposed as a 1,600-plus acre development situated on the south side of State Road 40 and west of I-95. The master planned community includes 3,250 residential units and 200,000 square feet of commercial space. Previous proposals have included areas as large as 2,600 acres with 10,000 residential units and 1 million square feet of office, retail, and warehouse space. This influx will forever change the Ormond Beach we know and love. While growth can provide opportunities, it also brings challenges to our city, which will impact our way of life. Results of such a development include a strain on our transportation system, damage to our natural environment and resources, and negative economic impacts to our neighbors and our city's government. With added residents and visitors comes additional traffic and congestion. With only 3 options to access the new development, intersections would require significant upgrades to manage the new traffic. Travel patterns would create bottlenecks for the new community as well as existing drivers at intersections including State Road 40 at I-95, Hand Avenue and Williamson Boulevard, and Timber Creek Road at LPGA Boulevard. The ripple effect of this congestion is also expected to impede travel into Flagler County and south through Daytona Beach. West of the proposed development, Tiger Bay State Forest is recognized for its extensive wetlands that provide critical aquifer recharge for the area. This natural treasure serves as a habitat for black bears and bald eagles, and locals and tourists alike enjoy the forest for hiking, picnicking, paddling, boating, primitive camping, and more. The worst part of it all is that once the resources are impacted, the changes cannot be undone. Our city is special. Ormond Beach is a place that is truly unique for the families and residents who thrive here. With the safety net of neighborly support and local pride, there are so few places left like our city to preserve. By sharing those things that are important to you, our residents, we can continue to advocate on your behalf.
I think video kind of helps us kind of pull it all together, right? So now it's our chance to hear from you, right? So what we're going to do is Stefan is going to come to each table and just pull a question out of the fishbowl. If you don't have any in your fishbowl, now is the time. Yours is likely to be drawn. Right, there we go. I see them coming in. All right. If you have any question whatsoever. Now, for those who are watching online, there is an opportunity to also submit questions online. And we're going to get one question from people submitted online. We'll get that from Jen in a minute. But let's start with going around the room. Let's start back here at this first table. It feels like he should be drawing like something for $1 million, right? No, it's a question. Okay. What's the question? Okay. You have $1 million question. There we go.
All right, so we're going to forego the microphone, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I started my career on a playground, so it should work out well.
Okay, and after you read your question, I'll repeat it so the folks online can hear it too.
So just so everybody knows, what we're going to do is we're going to pick a question out of the fishbowl, then we're going to take the rest of the questions, put them in the box, and then those will be answered at a later time, okay? So that. There's another opportunity for a fishbowl later in the presentation. So the first question is, the shared traffic light at Breakaway Trails, what changes to lanes and road width?
All right, say that one more time.
The shared traffic light at Breakaway Trails, what changes to lanes and road width?
Okay, what changes might be implemented at Breakaway Trail, right? Okay, who gets to answer that? And we're just at this point taking our best guesstimate, right?
Right.
Okay.
Matt, you can maybe help me out with this one a little bit. The final details haven't been fully developed, but there's going to be changes that will include extending the queue length, so likely, possibly additional turn lanes to help speed it along. Those things that increased capacity will have to. We don't have all those full details. The developer hasn't fully completed that permitting through the Florida Department of Transportation, which would dictate it. They're going to look at those things. They're going to make them do a full analysis that will take a look at and make sure that intersection continues to operate successfully and efficiently. So I wish we can give you exact details of saying that there's going to be a longer one, a longer turn lane. Obviously, there's not a turn lane at Breakaway Trails to allow you to turn left and go south. That would be something that would be added with this one as the roadway would connect into it. That's probably the only thing that we can say for sure. But other than that, those details will be presented as the project develops, and probably, may even you see modifications throughout the course of the development. What you see the first day when that road punches through may not be what you see in 8 or 10 years. It'll keep up with the development and it'll go. Did I hit it pretty close?
I agree. I think that hits most of it. I was going to underscore that FDOT's process and their first primary interest is going to be to make sure that State Road 40 is a safe facility for motorists throughout the region. I mean, it's a regional roadway that connects in a number of places. So they're going to be looking at that intersection from a safety, from a quality perspective, and they're going to want that access is developed both from a capacity standpoint, whether the lanes are long enough, if there's enough lanes, as well as a geometric standpoint to make sure that vehicles can see where they're turning and that those operations are safe and that for pedestrians, cars, and everyone else.
Question.
Okay, next. How will our road, even when expanding another 2 lanes where possible,
tonight. Those are questions that we're asking as well. I think that those are the questions that we want to continue to have. I appreciate you providing that question to us because that's a question that we're going to pass on to the Florida Department of Transportation, to the developer, to everybody. And those are something that, I would say everybody in this room, whether you came to join us tonight or whether you've been involved in the process of designing the project, reviewing the project, those are some of the things that we're thinking about. Obviously, we need to have, there needs to be a very thought out process. That's that DOT process. It takes many steps to get from point A to point B. We're at that first point now where we're identifying it, and that's going to take a while. And again, as this project develops, as this project matures, as it gets to the full fruition of the project, the 3,200 homes, the 200,000 square feet, it may look different at the end of that than it does 20 years from now or 30 years from now. So we're gonna keep an eye on it, and we're gonna do our best to try and keep you informed as that process evolves and as things change.
As we talk, I think I'll stay back, go this way. Okay. As we talk about that, part of what we're going to be asking is about the importance of advocacy, right? You all being advocates with us and us hearing what's important to you so that we can translate that as well. And we appreciate, again, the developer being here so he's hearing that. That's a natural concern about that amount of traffic being on these roadways. So I think everybody sees that. Very good. Okay, next table. Park be one-family homes. Do we know that yet?
From what the developers presented and what they've been very transparent all along, there's a mixture of things in there. There's single-family, multifamily, mixed use. So you're going to see town centers that are going to have, potentially that have residential above commercial. You're going to have single-family detached. You're going to have multifamily homes. So there's like a lot of the communities in the 21st century where you have a mixture of home types.
Okay.
Next question.
Does the Avalon property border the east side of Tiger Bay State Park?
Okay, just repeating for the folks at home, does the Avalon property border the east side of the state park?
Yes. It borders it on that area C. Not sure what it borders. Thank you. It borders it on the area C, so yes, it does. If you recall, there's probably about 1,888 acres that were designated as conservation. So they're expanding that conservation area too.
Okay. Will the Ormond Beach agreement to furnish water result in the rate increases to existing Ormond Beach residents?
That's not our intention, but that's certainly a topic. That's why we split this into 2 different meetings. We're going to bring to that one, and we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about utilities at our next meeting. So, here's please come back and see us on December 2nd, and we'll have some more information. But we really don't we want to do everything we can to give you good information.
Okay, so this is a 2-part question. Who is responsible currently, and would sound barrier be constructed along Hand Avenue?
Okay, let me just repeat that again for folks at home. Who's responsible for Hand Avenue, and could there be a sound barrier constructed?
Right now, Hand Avenue is split maintenance. The dividing line is Shangri-La, but more commonly, I think that the milestone that we all would know would be Nova Road. So just west of Nova Road is Shangri-La. So everything to the east of that point is more of a neighborhood road. That's the maintenance of the city of Ormond Beach. That to the west of it is a Volusia County maintained road. I haven't seen any indication of a sound barrier or any justification for that, but that's something that those would be considerations that would be taken into with any further development of plans.
Okay, good question. Online again for the folks at home. Where will these kids go to grade school?
As part of any residential development, there's a school concurrency aspect. In the plans that have been shown to Ormond Beach, there is a school component. I believe the developer has been talking to Volusia County Schools, so I believe they are looking to create a school within their development, and then there'll be a school concurrency through Volusia County Schools.
All right.
Crosswalks, slow traffic flow, have we explored pedestrian bridges at various points? If not, can we?
Okay, that was the crosswalks help slow the traffic, and have we looked at having crosswalks and pedestrian bridges at various points? Okay?
That has not been something that we've looked at, but that's something we can look into. We take a look at what we can do from a lot of different perspectives, and obviously, one of those perspectives is economics. Pedestrian bridges are very expensive, and so we need to take a look at what the best bang for our buck is to be able to get things accomplished. Right now, those have been some of those push button type of crosswalks. There's a give and take with whatever we choose, but I don't think we've looked seriously at any pedestrian bridges in recent history now.
Okay. When does the money come from utilities and roads? When is Ormond Beach going to start spending on infrastructure, all infrastructure?
What's the first one? Where does the money come from?
When does the money come for
When?
utilities
Okay.
and roads? When is Ormond Beach going to start spending on all infrastructure?
So when does the money come for the utilities and the roads, and when are they going to start spending on that infrastructure?
I'll start with that. So as development occurs, there are impact fees. So the impact fees that would be generated from the residential and commercial would generate impact fees. As part of the utilities, we can discuss some of the master plans that the city has done. The city would be the wholesale provider, not the retail provider. The roads is a more complicated answer. So the roads that Sean showed were basically in Volusia County, has maintenance responsibility, and DOT. So the city's role is really an advocacy to try to plan for, such as the widening of Granada Boulevard. So our role in this has been for advocacy in the West Ormond area for roads.
And as far as for spending funds, those are some of the things that we're looking at now, where we're sitting down with the developer, we're sitting down with Daytona Beach. Our customer with the utilities is going to be City of Daytona Beach, and we can go a little bit further in detail with some of those things of how we're addressing those needs at the next meeting is really our intention. So again, please come back in December 2nd.
Can the students that live in Daytona attend Ormond Beach schools, parentheses, grade and middle?
Okay, can this
Jurisdictional boundaries. So there are a number of students that go across jurisdictional boundaries. The high schools have academies that basically any student can attend. So yes, they can certainly go to different jurisdictions.
Okay. Last but not least.
pulling that, I want to reiterate, every question you put into the bowl is going to be answered with those answers provided on the city's website, and those will be in place by November 30th. So again, we're getting a lot of good questions. Expect if you didn't get yours answered through this process, you're going to see an answer online.
Okay. Why did you not survey the group in regard to how many trips are taken east at I-95/State Road 40? Residents will want to go to the beach, downtown shops, and restaurants.
Okay, question was about why did we not ask people about trips east of the interstate? Because the folks who live in this area that we're talking about are all going to be driving through town to get to the beach. Okay?
Yep. Thank you. Oh, I thought you answered it. I thought you answered. That was a great answer. I mean, we were trying to get a little bit of feel. The focus of tonight is the Western expansion. So we were just kind of curious. These were icebreaker questions. These are just some things to kind of keep you. We are concerned about trips that are east of I-95. We're concerned with trips everywhere. We try to monitor those. Next time we'll ask a question: how many travel east of I-95? But that was we're trying to come up with some questions to just give us a chance to know a little bit about yourself. And since really the topic at hand this evening is that development to the west of I-95, that's why we asked that. Raise your hands. How many of you travel east of I-95? There you go. I think we all know that traveling on east of I-95 on State Road 40, we were just kind of curious of the impact of this group on what's going on west of I-95 today, and that's going to help us to realize what's going to drive the future.
And John, I think part of that question also was, when you look at a development that is taking place west of 95, do we take into account the impacts? Like, how far away do you count the impacts of that new growth?
You could probably do a great job with that one.
So when a development like this goes in, it's added to what's called the Central Florida Regional Planning Model to see how those trips would distribute, looking at where they would potentially go to work, where they potentially live if they're going to work at this site. Those have I would say a radius, but it's based on the idea of if it takes longer to get there, they're less likely to do it that way. So that's why when we showed those impacted roadways, they were throughout the community, because we know that a development of this magnitude is going to have trips that travel long distances, and it's part of why there's been this level of concern to make sure State Road 40 and other principal roadways within the city are taken care of.
I'm going to flip this off just to walk past this speaker. Maybe we'll avoid a little screech. Okay, so now it's really your chance to get to have a conversation with the people at your table. I do want to mention that we're going to have another fishbowl questions when we talk about the economic development impact. So we'll have another series of opportunities to put questions in. But we've talked a lot about transportation, right? And so that's really the thing that we want you to talk about at your table. So I want you to think about this question. Looking ahead 10 years, what transportation-related measures would contribute the most to livability for Ormond Beach west of I-95? What are those things that would be really important to you? What we're going to ask you to do at your tables is have some discussion of this at the table. Now, let me just mention a few quick things about discussion guidelines. As we did in 2018, we talked about the fact that understand that people will have perspectives probably different than yours. That is fine. We're going to ask you that everyone's ideas be put onto the paper. I'll explain that in a minute. Speak to be understood. You're trying to make sure people understand where you're coming from. You're not trying to convince them to think like you, right? Explain your assumptions, ask questions to make sure people understand where you're coming from. Listen and share the airtime. What we mean by that is at the end of the discussion, we hope everyone's had a chance to share their point of view. All right, so let me explain how this is going to work. We're going to do is give you about 20 minutes. Now, for those of you who, like me, find these chairs, they're lovely chairs, but you just got to stand up a little bit. Feel free to stand up. This is also fine if you want to go grab a quick drink. What we want you to do, though, is this is not social time. This is time we want you to really talk about this topic, okay? And so what we want you to do is we want you to pick the person who has the birth date closest to today, all right? And that is going to be the first person. And if two or more people happen to have the same birthday, the one who came the furthest gets to go first. What we want you to do is go around your table and allow everyone to offer an answer to this question. What do you think it might be? And there's lots of things you can think about in terms of just different things that impact our transportation. You've heard tonight. So it can be things like thinking about bike paths. Is it pedestrian crossings? Is it pedestrian bridges that we heard asked about before? Is it going to be widening roadways? Is it going to be adding more sidewalks? Is it going to be multi-use trails, which have become popular and used more recently? Is it adding extra lanes? Is it looking at that interchange at I-95 and figuring out what do we do there? It can be any of those and more, right? What are the things that you think answer this question? What transportation-related measures would contribute most to livability for Ormond Beach west of I-95, right? What's going to happen there and how's it going to impact us? What would be the best solution? So what I want you to do is each person says what they would think. Write it on you guys have in front of you the sticky notes. Just put on the sticky note what you are thinking is the most important, and put it on this white paper that you see here on the table in front of you. Because we're going to collect those, and we're going to use those to share on the website what we heard from everyone, right? So put as many of those as you can think of. So once you go around the group one time, go back again. Feel free to ask some questions, but within that 20 minutes, we want to be sure everyone at the table has had a chance to share what's important to them. And if you run out of things, then I would say just discuss the things that you've had, all right? So someone's going to set the timer for us. We're giving you 20 minutes. Please, if you have questions, feel free to raise a hand. If we can help, we will. But this is really for you all to talk to your neighbors, all right? Begin. All right, 2 minutes. We're going to wrap up in just another minute or so, so just try to wrap at your tables. We'll start proceeding from there. It was a way to get everyone, wasn't it? I do. Can I get it for you afterwards, or are you leaving?
Well, I'm fine.
I'll grab it in just a minute. Thank you. All right, guys, let me call everybody back together, if you would. Find a seat, or at least be along the back wall if you want to stand for a little bit. I just wanted to mention, I had a good conversation with one of the people who was here tonight that said, but why is it important? Why do we need to be here? Does it make a difference? And I would tell you, we saw that in 2018. Sometimes one of the things that's frustrating is the wheels of government sometimes turn slowly, right? We know that, right? And so why does it make a difference? Because the things you share tonight are those things that are going to allow your elected officials in Ormond Beach to direct staff to say, this is what we hold important. This is what we heard as the top priorities. These are the things that we need to really push and advocate for. The other thing that's important is that even if you don't, of course you probably live in Ormond Beach, right, not Daytona, but you're residents of Volusia County. And you have that opportunity to also make your wishes known to the county because they'll be engaged in this process as well. So we do believe it's critically important to get this feedback from you. All right, we're going to do something I think is a little bit fun. It's a little bit daunting for those of us who consider ourselves low tech, okay? I would say if you have a telephone, an electronic device, now is the time to get it out. I'll explain why. What we would like you to do is think about everything that everyone discussed at your table. And what I want you to do is share with us the one thing from everything that was discussed that you believe is the number one thing, right? If you say it was focusing on environmental concerns, if you say it was sidewalks, if you say lanes or interchanges, whatever it was, I want you to share that with us. Now, how do you do that? For most of us, like we look at this thing up here that's called a QR code and you're like, I don't have that on my phone, right? All you have to do is open your camera. Point your camera up at that code that's up there. You might have to zoom in and it will automatically take you to a site where you just type in the word. And we're going to be able to see collectively, not by individual, but by the group, which words were repeated most often. My apologies if I'm in your way to be able to get the picture of that code. You can stand up, you can come up closer to the TV or the screen. It's also on your paper, thank you, somebody very astute. You don't have to come up here, right? All right. If you don't want to do that, you can also just type in the address on your browser. You could put menti.com, then you have to enter a code. Not a problem if you'd like to do that. It's just easier to take a picture with your phone and it'll say open up. And then what we're going to allow you to do is with this word cloud, write the word that you think. And you can put, I think it takes up to 25 characters. So you could say, if you wanted to say improvements at interchange, you could probably fit all that in, maybe, right? Other fun things to know is if you happen to be the person who wanted to share a curse word, here's the good news, it won't let you. It's just going to put up there exclamation points and X's and whatever, right? So anybody who thought that was, I always think that's fun, right? Okay, whatever, no, okay. It will not allow you to do that. So give us, and if you have any question, please raise your hand. And we have folks who know how to use this that will come around and help you out. So anybody needs some help with that? We're going to give you a little bit of time to put your words in. The wonderful part about this is that we're going to see collectively as a room how many of these words came up, right? We'll be able to see. And look, we're already seeing the ones that you see bigger are ones that are repeated more often. So some of the ones that have come up so far is focusing on Granada to LPGA, transportation, less development, bike path, Hand Avenue, widening State Road 40, have improvements keep pace, one road to the beach in Ormond. Boy, that was a lot of characters to squeeze in there. Good job to somebody. Roads is a big one that we see over and over. Environmental, multiple lanes. A lot of diverse points of view coming up here. Trolleys, hadn't heard that one, trolleys. What else do we see? Safety is a big word that's up there. It's been said more than one time. Increasing the interchange at 95. Drainage and flooding issues. Hadn't said that one yet. Mixed uses, expansion, transportation, complete streets. They were listening to you guys when you talked about complete streets. Somebody got that one, all right? LPGA Tomoka River Bridge. Multiple lanes. A toll booth. Can't come into Ormond Beach without paying a toll. How's that? All right. Except we'll only use the toll booth for people who live outside of Ormond Beach, right? Okay, right. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. All right. Okay, you see, so again, the ones coming in, safety, roads, now toll booths become popular, right? Okay. I don't know that that's high up on the practicality list, but I like the creativity, right? Okay. Bridge over the airport road, tax use, multiple use trails. All right, I think hopefully we got everyone's words up there. Again, we saved this so that we can go back, and I believe, Jen, is this going to be available online too? So people can go online and do this same thing and share their words. We just wanted to capture from this group what were the things that we heard the most. And I think some new ones too, Timber Creek Direct Connect. I think we got a lot of the rest of those. So again, this will be saved and shared, so we'll see what came from this meeting, but we'll do the same thing with folks online. All right, I know our time is running close, so what we want to do is now jump to a quick discussion about economic development. So I'm going to ask you to drop the phone and grab your little clickers again, because what I want to do is take you first to this question. When you think of the words economic development, what comes to mind as in terms of what does it mean to you? Number one, creating job opportunities, expanding the tax base, improving the quality of life, or networking business to business. When you think of economic development, pick one of those four. Again, you do this on your clicker. Just hit your clicker, you don't have to hit send, and it will load, and we'll see kind of what the group thinks when we talk about the terms economic development. We thought it was important tonight not to just focus on transportation, because we do know there's many aspects to what this may mean, right? So we're trying to look at it very broadly. All right, give another second. Anybody else want to put their input in? All right, let's see what you said. All right, creating jobs was number one. Okay, our business people, sorry, that did not win. We got down here, very low score there. Improving the quality of life is something economic development meant to people, and expanding the tax base. All right, so now let me introduce Brian. And Brian is going to come talk about what economic development means and his experience. Brian is the Economic Development Director with the City of Ormond Beach. Let me give you that. He has 10 years experience in economic development, having held numerous positions with regional, state, and private firms. He is a certified economic developer. That's a designation that's earned through the International Economic Development Council. He has lived in Ormond Beach for over 3 years, and when he's not at work, he likes to spend time out and about Ormond Beach with his wife and 2 children. So, Brian, come tell us a little bit about economic development.
Thank you.
And specifically related to west of 95.
Yes. Here we go. Thank you. Good evening. Can I watch this light here?
I was going to take some time and talk to you about potential economic impacts of development west of I-95 in light of the conversation that we've been having today. And I'd like to start my conversation, as I do most of my presentations, with a general definition of what economic development is, as it's generally defined as the intentional practice of improving a community's economic well-being and quality of life. And this is done through implementing a series of programs that are aimed at creating jobs in the economy, that are aimed at helping local businesses expand their operations and attracting businesses to the community, and then also nurturing community development. And although the developments that we've talked about today won't be occurring in Ormond Beach, as we've heard, there will be impacts to our economy. And so with new development west of I-95, there were 3 impacts that we would like to kind of review generally, and those include impacts to job and wage creation, impacts to increased demand for Ormond Beach businesses, which is something we heard through one of the fishbowl questions, and then how the impact or the developments can impact and diversify the economy west of I-95. So one of the primary goals of economic development is job creation and job opportunities, which creates wages that are then spent throughout the community. And since we were talking about that we wanted to look at as we learned through Stephen's presentation, the majority of the development west of I-95 is primarily residential. So it begged the question, where do the people who live west of I-95 work? Well, no surprise, they mostly work outside of the area, right? So everyone's leaving the area on a daily basis to go to work. The top destinations include Daytona Beach, Ormond Beach, Holly Hill, Port Orange, and even as far southwest as Orlando. What we can see here on the map in these concentric circles that will pop up here is as you can see in these shades of blue and dark blue is where the employment centers actually are. So we can see here there's a heavy concentration of employment along Williamson Boulevard near I-95, which we can attribute to Advent Health, to a lot of the professional services and retail services that are there. We can see another heavy concentration of employment here, which is ISB and Clyde Morris. Within this cluster, we have Halifax Health, Embry-Riddle University, International Speedway, and of course, a variety of retail accommodation and professional services. We obviously see employment all along major corridors here in Ormond Beach, between Nova Road and US 1, and then of course up at our Ormond Beach Airport and Airport Business Park, where we have the bulk of the people that are taking these jobs. They're in healthcare, they're in professional services, manufacturing, retail, food services, and accommodation. So the impacts that we'd just like to point out is that as new households come into the area west of I-95, they will be taking jobs most likely outside of the area, taking jobs in Daytona Beach, taking jobs in Ormond Beach, or they will be bringing their companies to our area and creating jobs in Ormond Beach. That's our goal anyway, right? Economic development. We can also say that as we look at that job creation, these new households will enter the labor force and support the economy, support the local economy, which segues into the second impact, which is that employees and residents west of I-95 spend their wages on goods and services. They will be doing that at our small and medium-sized businesses that are in Ormond Beach. One of the things that the question was, as people are going to the beach, they'll be wanting to stop at our restaurants and our retail, and that is correct. So the positive impact there is, as new households come in, they're going to be patronizing our local businesses, increasing demand for their services and their goods. And we'll actually segue into the third impact by talking a little bit about the area west of I-95 again, as we think about consumption of goods and services, right? So currently we looked at census data of 2020, the new Census Bureau data, and just in the area highlighted in, well, what is now white, the population, there's about 7,000 people that live west of I-95. There's about 2,500 households. The average family size is about 3, so it's your typical family. Considering that Pathways and Pine Trail Elementary are there, a lot of families. And the median household income is $85,000 a year, which is actually pretty impressive. As we learned through Stephen Spraker's presentation, most of the commercial development is along West Granada Boulevard between Timber Creek and I-95, and that's primarily serving people coming on and going off of the interchange. So in economic development speak, there's a lot of retail leakage going on. What does that mean? The retail marketplace does not support the demands of the people that live here. So there's no grocery stores, there are no department stores, there are very few restaurant options, a lot of other amenities. So residents are leaving this area to go get those sundries and those personal goods. Again, impacting our businesses, but again, it's increasing vehicle miles traveled on our roads in order to go get the things that they currently need. And as we also learned in Stephen's presentation, there's very few parcels left in Ormond Beach for commercial development. So we looked at the development of Avalon Daytona, which although this graph is of a larger build-out, this is to demonstrate where the retail development that is proposed in the first phase would be located along Granada Boulevard, which is about 200,000 square feet of retail or mixed-use space. So what this would suppose as the households are coming in and the retail and the office space is being built out, more retail, restaurants, offices, and medical services would be coming into the area, which would have a positive impact in that residents west of I-95 would have less miles to travel to get to the things that they may want or need, and not having to go so far east in order to obtain those services or those goods. So what does 200,000 square feet of retail space look like? We can look at it as the Ormond Town Square in Ormond Beach at Williamson and Granada. That's about 250,000 square feet of a grocery-anchored retail center. The Margaritaville Shopping Center on West LPGA in front of Latitude is 200,000 square feet. And then I also included a picture of Avalon Park Orlando Town Center, which although that's 500,000 square feet of commercial space, it does point out and shows sort of the new urbanism concepts that they're trying to adopt, which includes lower-line retail on the street front, and then having the multifamily in the office above that retail. So again, just coming back to the amenities that would be coming into the area west of I-95, diversifying the economy, and again, too, creating jobs, right, that residents who are west of I-95 would be able to be employed in, and also provide job opportunities for students and that are looking for a career. And so as that, generally, we looked at those three impacts. We were going to finish with a polling question, which is, of those three economic impacts, which is the most important to you? And so if jobs creation and wages is important to you, press number 1. If increase in customers for our local businesses is important, click number 2. And if more convenient access to stores and restaurants west of I-95 is important, click 3. And of course, if they're all important, you can click number 4. And with that, I will turn this over to Michelle.
All right, I really appreciate Stephen's point, because as we think about things, I mean, if you were a small business owner, you might say, yes, that's going to be great to have more people coming. For me, I'm also thinking, okay, it's going to take me longer to get into my favorite restaurant, right? Yeah. So it's a mixed blessing, right? It can help people in some ways, and it can be challenging in others. So we know that. All right, so let's look at your responses. And clearly, more convenient access to stores and restaurants is the most important thing to folks here, right? I think that's pretty understanding. Number 4, it was all of the above, which was jobs, increase in customers for local businesses, and more convenient access. All right, last thing we're going to do is we're going to poll. We'll try to get 4 questions, if anybody has them in a bowl, about economic development, right? We just want to see, are there any questions that you have in your fish bowls related to economic development? If you haven't put them in there, feel free to put a question in if you have a question about economic development. We're going to ask Stefan to, again, he gets to be the one who randomly picks a table, but we'd like this question to be on economic development. The other quick thing I want to mention one more time is that every question in the fish bowl is going to get answered online. So you will be able to go and see the responses if your question didn't get answered. So anybody know that they have an economic development question in their fish bowl? Raise your hand if you know you have one. Okay, there we go. Let's do that one. Good.
Okay. What comes first, retail or houses? Or are they built simultaneously?
Great question. What comes first, turtle or the, chicken or the egg? No, which comes first, retail or the houses? Who's got a good response to that? Stephen? You're on.
Traditionally, the answer is retail follows rooftops. So as more rooftops are built west of I-95, the retail traditionally comes. I think one of the reasons why, I will say, one of the reasons why you don't see as much commercial development you have west of I-95 is because there are only 2,500 households, 7,000 in population. Traditionally, as retailers, particularly the national chains in grocery, for example, are looking at areas, they need a particular density within a 1 mile, 3 mile radius. And when you put those circles around this area, you're not capturing that right now, so their interest in the area is not very high. But as new households come in, the retail will follow, and so retail follows rooftops.
Cool. Great answer. All right. Anybody else have an economic development question in your bowl? All right, got one right here, and then we'll come over here. Okay?
Okay. Will impact fees pay for upgraded infrastructure?
Will impact fees pay for upgraded infrastructure? For those of you online at home?
The impact fees will pay a portion, so they'll pay a portion, you know, it depends on the impact fee that you're talking about, but roads will pay a portion of it. It won't solve the entire problem. Impact fees are one funding source of many sources that are needed in order to do infrastructure development.
All right, we had one here, if you would.
Long way around.
Yeah, we appreciate you asking the questions.
Absolutely. How can economic development happen without use of government?
Okay, how can economic development happen without use of government? I'm glad you're the one answering that.
Well, how can it happen without the use of government as businesses are looking to locate based on their site selection criteria? So if it's a retailer that's looking to come in, they're going to be coming in based on number of households, average household income, et cetera. If you're looking at a business like a manufacturer or a professional service company, they're going to be locating in the area because they want to take advantage of the location, access to the interstate, access to transportation, access to the workforce. And that happens with or without government assistance.
All right. Okay, any other last questions from anybody that had an economic development question in their fishbowl? All right, you all have been fantastic, right? You've spent 2 hours. Please do give yourselves a hand. All right, so kind of where do we go from here? A couple quick things and we're going to be done. Quick review of what we talked about tonight. We heard about the history and the overview of Ormond Beach West. I think for many of us, even those of us that have lived here for a while, that was really helpful. We know that Avalon Daytona Beach has approved development plans for 3,250 residential units. All right, they already have approval for that, and 200,000 square feet of commercial. And then you heard the point that there's other land that has the potential to be developed in the future. We discussed the transportation impacts from development west of I-95, and we gathered feedback from you all about your priorities, what was most important to you, and again, we talked about the economic impacts likely to happen from the result of this work, of what would be happening west of I-95. So what's the next step? Well, the first thing we want you to do is tell 5 friends what you learned tonight, right? Even talking about it with your significant other home, they always say it helps you remember it, right? So talk to people in your community, your neighbors, your friends, the people you go to church with, or people you see at the grocery store that you know, to say, hey, this is something you ought to pay attention to. Send them to the website because they can visit ormondbeach.org, OB Life, and they can share some feedback too about what's most important to them. And we'll see those things develop in a community word cloud beyond those of you who were here tonight. So we want to measure that as well. And then the last thing is really attend the next meeting. We're only doing 2 meetings, and the next one is December the 2nd. Same place, same time, and we're trying to get it in before you get in the total holiday spirit, right? Because what could be more important than advocating for what's important for you in this community? So we really ask you to come back. Please invite some other folks. Encourage them to go learn more about it, because that's essential. The last thing we want to ask you to do is please leave those stickies on the table, because we're going to collect those up. So the papers you have on, take other stuff with you if you'd like to, but leave your comments because we're going to pick those up. Yes? Okay, also in front of you is a kind of orangish yellow card. If you put that on there, we do not spam you with every single thing you've ever wanted to hear from the government. We would like to keep you informed about this meeting process, right? We want to make sure you are engaged, so you can put your information there. Last thing is, we want the next meeting to be just as good, if not better. At the back of your packet, we called it the agenda packet, but the very last page in here is an evaluation. If you would be so kind as to tear that off, and we made it a simple thing where you can just circle the numbers. If you would just let us know, how did this work? Was this useful? Did you learn things? Was it valuable? Do you feel like at your table that people heard your point of view? So we read each one of these and take it very seriously to make sure that the next session is hopefully even better than tonight. So again, a big thank you to the developer team for being here, developer team, wherever they were over here, to here. Big thank you to our elected leaders and the OB staff for trying to make sure this was a very useful and functional meeting. Joyce, any last comments? Oh yes, please just leave your evaluation on the table. Just turn it over and leave it on the table. We'll pick those up from there. So guys, thanks again. We so appreciate you, your care and love for this community, and we feel the same way. Thank you.